Wars bring to mind soldiers fired with patriotism, fighting for their motherland. When India and Pakistan went to war, those involved in the battle were Indians and Pakistanis, none else. If a prolonged war was to be fought today, there is a possibility of private military contractors getting involved, recruited by the two governments to fight the war on their behalf. It's not an outlandish assumption. This has been happening over the last 2 decades in various regions, starting with the US invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan, and now in Ukraine. Yes, times have changed. Over the last 20 years, wars have been outsourced to private military contractors. They fight not because of any nationalistic zeal, it's purely a business deal. They have been contracted to fight an enemy, and they do just that. Wagner is a company of military contractors. It can be commercially engaged by any government to fight its wars. Not just governments, anyone who can pay, including businesses and even high net worth individuals whose work involves violence. Military contractors like Wagner use the services of largely former well-trained soldiers who have quit the military and looking for work to do. Many miss the battlefield. Others may be in need of job, money, etc. So they join groups like Wagner and fight for whoever contracts them. In Ukraine, Wagner consists of groups from various nationalities, including French, Spanish, Serbs, Chechens, besides, of course, Russians. Ukraine too is using the services of military contractors, including Russians, no less. The system of outsourcing wars to military contractors is fraught with implications. The Blackwater group started in 1996. It was used by the George W. Bush administration to fight in Iraq and Afghanistan. Looking back, in the historic medieval and Middle Ages, wars were largely fought by mercenaries recruited by various kingdoms. But this practice died down nearly 200 years ago with the emergence of the modern nation state, along with notions of nationalism, etc. After the US recreated the practice, today there are several military contractors who are open to working for any government, businesses, or oligarchs willing to pay the price. Wagner and Blackwater, now called Academy, are well publicized. There are several others, including Bain Corp, Define International, and Triple Canopy. Military contracting is something like the way football and cricket leagues are structured around the world. The English and European football leagues and India's premier cricket tournament, IPL, comprise teams that include players from all over the world, irrespective of their nationalities. Unlike a traditional India versus Australia cricket test match, which evokes national fervor, waving of the national flag, etc., IPL games have no such patriotic elements. The stakes are largely commercial. Huge amounts of money sloshes within the kitty of these big sports leagues. They run into several crores, as everyone knows. An outsourced war is similar, except that instead of playing sport, it's war. India has so far not outsourced wars to private contractors. But the country's newly introduced Agnipath scheme for joining the Indian Army may actually end up as a recruitment pool for private military contractors. Viewers may recall that under the Agnipath scheme, only 25% of those trained will be absorbed into the Indian Army. What will the remaining 75% do? Professionally trained and raring to go, they will naturally gravitate towards contractors as that would be the job they are well suited for. Plus, of course, the lure of big money that goes with the job. This would be an inherently fundamental change that could affect the character of Indian society. Militarily well trained but jobless, these could be cannon fodder for private military contractors, political groups, and private individuals who can afford them. The practice of military contracting only seems to be flourishing, as it is a convenient way of carrying on a war without putting the lives of regular soldiers on line. The other advantage is that private contractors like Wagner are not accountable to the normal checks and balances of any system. Some of the worst atrocities against Iraqis were carried out by private contractors. Among them was the Nisor Square shooting in 2007 by Blackwater mercenaries that killed 17 Iraqi civilians. In the Russia versus Ukraine conflict, what is worse is that wars fought within the conventional framework could have ended earlier. But with contractors in place for whom fighting a war is like going to work, the longer it takes to end, the better for them, as their salaries, etc., will be taken care of. This could be one reason why the Ukraine Russian war is taking so long to arrive at any settlement. There was speculation during Wagner's mutiny that his chief, Yevgeny Prigozhin, was trying to dislodge Putin by force. Yes, he was angry as they were not being well taken care of. And their demands for better military equipment were being ignored by the Russian government. He even suspected that Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu was attempting to absorb a large section of the contractors into the regular Russian army. The relationship broke down. To make it worse, a Russian missile landed on the contractors in Bakhmut, killing many. Prigozhin rebelled. The Western media hyped up the revolt as a possible coup against Putin. Eventually, there were no surprises as the deal was struck and the mutiny collapsed. As Prigozhin himself later said, they were not interested in dislodging Putin. Not a surprise. A company like Wagner is not interested in ruling any country. They just need jobs and they expect to be treated well, like any contract staff by a civilian company. Today, as we witness Wagner's involvement in Ukraine, there are other places too where Wagner, as well as other similar contractors, are busy fighting conflicts on behalf of their client governments in the Middle East and Africa, in countries like Syria, Yemen, Libya, Sudan, Mali, and Burkina Faso. It is a dangerous trend as outsourced fighting has the potential to increase the number of violent conflicts around the world, prolong the fighting, and end up killing and affecting the lives of thousands of innocent civilians around the world.
Subscribe to the Federal's YouTube page for more news and updates.